Okay, today I'm going to do maybe a three-part video on Christian clothing and what God has to say about how us ladies should dress and how us ladies should look. Now, I understand everybody has their own idea and their own fashion, their own idea according to their culture and how they were raised. I'm not addressing that. I'm simply showing you what I've learned and what God has taught me about how we should dress in modern times, according to what God has to say out of the Bible. Okay. Now, I will say this: for the most part, it should always be modern attire. Uh, Not modern. Modest. That's the word I'm looking for. Modest. Now, what does that mean? That's a broad concept to a lot of different people. But what does it mean to God? Okay, and for a woman to dress modestly, what does that look like? Okay, it's more than to be a beautiful woman of God, to be in His beauty and to glorify Him with the way you present yourself. Okay, that's what a lot of it covers, from what I've understood so far as this is concerned. It is true, God does look at our hearts. That is very true. He looks on our hearts and He sees what's in our hearts. But God also understands that man is flesh, because that's the way He made us. And He knows that people are going to look at us, and if we call ourselves people of God, but we look all, crazy, all not very presentable, not very put together, okay? Let me make a side note here. When you're doing this, keep God in mind, on the top of your mind and on top of your heart, and do it in a way that pleases God, okay? Now, I'm saying that because I don't know your situation. This is my situation, and this is how I'm going to approach it, okay? I'm a single lady, and so going out into the world and presenting myself a certain way gets different kinds of attentions that I don't want, okay? That being said, that's not my goal. My goal here is to show you what I have learned from what God has said. Okay? Now, whether you take that and agree or disagree, that is completely okay with me. I'm not going to tell you how to dress. I'm not going to tell you how to act. I'm just here to be the vessel and tell you what God has told me. And if you want to argue with anybody, questions are welcome. You can leave those in the comments. But anything hateful or distasteful or anything like that, you can take that to God in prayer and I'll let you contend with Him, because I'm not going to argue with you about it. Okay? All right. So let's get started. First place I want to start us out is 1 Peter chapter 3. No cat. She thinks that my Bible pages are. Anyways. Okay, so we're in 1 Peter chapter 3. In verses 3 through 6, it says, "Whose adorning let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair, and of wearing of gold, or of putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the adornment of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price. For this manner in the old time the holy women also, who trusted in God, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as you do well and are not afraid with any amazement. Okay, so that's talking about adorning. That's one thing, that's the separation between married women, the distinction between married women and unmarried women. Okay, so if you are in the Bible and you're all confused about why does certain women allowed for adornment and other women are not, it's because women that weren't married were required to have not to be adorned. Okay, not to be overly dressed. Okay, when you're married, the idea is, or the way God presents it, is that you dress for your husband. You dress in the way he likes. Okay, and you do what's pleasing to him. And we do this naturally as women. We want to please our husband. We want to look good for him. And there's billions and billions, maybe even trillions of dollars in the beauty industry spent on impressing our loved one. Now you can say, I just do it for myself. Okay, well then you're in pride. That's where the difference is. You're in pride and you're doing it for yourself in a selfish manner. Okay? What I'm talking about here is to do what is pleasing to God. And that includes the way you dress and the way you look. Okay? It is in the heart. It is in the heart. But what's in the heart will manifest on the outside. And if you're a prideful person, I'm guilty of this, so I'm not pointing fingers. I'm saying I've been a prideful person, and I would do things, and I still have a tendency to try to do things in a prideful manner, in a way that puts myself above God. And you can't do that. That's idolatry. That's against God. And I'm scared to even confess that I've done that, but I've got to be honest with you here. It's not easy living in this type of society nowadays, that it's a free-for-all. You can do whatever you want with no consequences attached to it. There are consequences for the way you choose to dress and the way it affects others. Okay? Now you can say, well, I'll do whatever I want. I can dress however I want. Well, that is completely true. You have free will to dress however you choose and desire. However, let me ask you this. Would you go down like the main road in your town butt naked in front of all those children? In front of all those men? For everybody to stare at you? That doesn't make sense, does it? Now, maybe in our society, one day that may be acceptable. In certain parts of the world, certainly, that is acceptable. Okay? But I'm talking from an American standpoint, a modern American Christian woman's standpoint. Okay? I cannot speak for other societies and other cultures, as I have presented earlier. Okay? Now, a couple of examples that I want to mention here is Rebecca. Rebecca was married to Isaac, and she gave birth to twins, if you remember the story back in Genesis. And that was Genesis 24. Let me flip to that part there. Genesis 24, verses 43 through 67. Now you can read the entire story of how how Rebecca and Isaac met. But it's a beautiful dating story. I really believe that you should pick it out, read it, go through it with a fine-tooth comb. But I'm only going to cover dress right now and how women of Bible times, it was presented to them. She was a virgin, so I imagine her in very plain like clothes. She was probably in her workout, what she would wear to go to work in, because she was carrying water, going to pick up it's probably like one of these big, huge, like, things on her shoulder, a big pot vessel to carry to the well, And that's what she would gather water with. That was one of her many duties, one of her many jobs. So she carried it. And I imagine her to be very, very, very simply dressed. But this is what the Bible says.